Hey fam, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is heyjavonnejay and I'm a California native who moved to Bangkok to teach English and immerse myself in Thai culture. Now at this point I've made a lot of videos about moving abroad and life abroad in general, but one thing that I think really needs to be addressed is how do you know if you're ready to move abroad? It can seem like the perfect solution for a fresh start, but there's some things you need to consider first. So if you're thinking about making the move, stick around because I'm sharing 10 signs that moving abroad might not be for you right now. Let's get into it. Alright, first step. Moving abroad is definitely not going to be for you if you struggle with change. If you're somebody who is really used to sticking to a routine, moving abroad might not be for you. Now hear me out. Yes, once you're here, you will develop your own routines as you get used to things. However, moving abroad is constantly about changes and uncertainty. Whether it's adjusting to a new culture, figuring out the visa process, or just getting used to different ways of doing things. If you're the type of person that gets easily overwhelmed by uncertainty, then moving abroad probably isn't for you. Alright, next step. You're not willing to learn a new culture. But the reality is, if you're not willing to learn the local customs, understanding the ways people think, or even learning a little bit of the language, you're going to feel pretty isolated. Moving abroad isn't just about the food or the sights, it's about the people and how they do life. So you have to ask yourself, can I embrace that? Or am I just looking for a place where everything stays the same as back home? I'm constantly seeing videos and reading articles about tourists and expats that come to another country and they're completely disrespectful or completely disregard the customs altogether. They're not doing their research. They're not really interested in learning about the culture. They're just focused on, oh, this place is cheaper, or it's a party area, the weather is really nice, or whatever the draw is. But a lot of times people can discount what makes the country what it is, and it's the people. It's not the prices, the nightclubs, the beaches, the food. So if you don't respect the culture, you honestly have no business moving abroad. It's also not really fair to expect the locals to acquiesce to how you do things where you're from. Getting upset because they don't speak English, because you have to take off your shoes before entering a building, whatever the situation is. Even if you live here, you are a guest. Either acquiesce to their culture or you can leave. Alright, let's talk about money. Moving abroad isn't just about hopping on a plane and starting over. You need a stable income plan. Take it from someone who knows. If you watched my From Broke to Bangkok Part 1 video, when I originally moved to Guadalajara, Mexico, I did not have a financial plan, and that crashed and burned pretty quickly. And I've actually met a handful of people here in Bangkok that are in a similar situation to what I was in when I was in Mexico, and I want to forewarn them so badly, like, please find a job right away because savings, they dwindle. They do. No matter how much you have saved, that money is going. You can do things the cheap way all you want, but that money is going to eventually run out. So it's important to have a stable source of income or multiple sources of income, let's be real. What if you don't find a job right away? Or what if your freelance work dries up? You need to ask yourself, how am I going to support myself? People are just going for it, don't have any plan in mind, and then you end up having to pack it up and go right back to where you came from because you didn't plan accordingly. So take it from somebody who knows. Don't do that. The best thing you can do is either secure a job before you get out here, or if you have a remote job that allows you to work from anywhere, obviously then you can bring that abroad with you. But I would highly discourage you from moving abroad on just savings alone. So any type of income that you're getting, including your retirement benefits, your pension, whatever, make sure that you have that set up and in order so you don't uproot your life and have to start all over again. And continuing on with finances, financial flexibility is key when moving abroad. If you're not prepared for things to fluctuate, like unexpected expenses or changes in exchange rates, for example, if you do freelance work and your income varies from month to month, or if you're a content creator like myself, even though I'm not making the big bucks yet, but let's just roll with the content creator example. You might be living brand deal to brand deal, and brand deals aren't always guaranteed. And that's what I mean by having a financial cushion before you move abroad. Alright, now here's a big one. If you hate being alone, moving abroad honestly can get pretty lonely, especially if you have a really close relationship with the people from back home. And this is especially important if you're moving solo like I did. In the beginning, you're probably going to spend a lot of time by yourself, and you're going to have times where you miss your friends, your family, or just generally feel disconnected. And honestly, if you're not the type of person who's comfortable in their own company, moving abroad can honestly take a really big toll. Now, obviously, if you're moving as a family or a couple, this dynamic shifts. You'll have your loved ones around, which is great, but you still have to deal with the challenge of adjusting to a new life together. It's not going to be all about just us time. It's about getting comfortable with a new pace and a way of life. So it's really important to be real with yourself and assess and see, can you handle that? Alright, up next, you expect it to be like your home country. A big misconception that I see all the time on social media and even here on YouTube, moving abroad will be just like back home, but cheaper. And if you think everything's going to be the same, honestly, you're in for a shock. And it's the little things too, like from the way businesses operate to the way people run their day-to-day lives. I'll give you an example. So when I lived in Guadalajara, I would look up different businesses, places to eat, things to explore, things like that. And you would look at their business hours. They're open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, it's 3 p.m. Perfect. Let me pull up. You go there, it's closed. Why is it closed? I don't know. A lot of times businesses just kind of, especially small owned mom and pop type shops, they open and close whenever they feel like it, basically. Really, those operating business hours are more of a suggestion than anything. So you just kind of have to roll with it, honestly. Also, while I was out there, navigating public transportation was not easy. They don't have the BTS like they have here. They don't have like a SkyTrain or anything like that. It was just buses. And honestly, the buses were so frustrating for me because a lot of the bus stops aren't even marked. So you just kind of have to guess. Now, if you go on Google Maps, it'll show you the cross streets, but you kind of have to figure out like the exact point where the bus stop is on the sidewalk. So the best way I would figure it out was honestly just by looking at the locals. Like if I saw a crowd of people standing somewhere on the street, I'd walk up to them like, is this the bus stop? So if that's something that bothers you, that's something to definitely consider. All right, up next, and this one I actually talked about my 10 myths of moving in Thailand video. If you haven't watched that, be sure to watch that one as well. But the reason why I'm mentioning it again is because it's so important, and that's you thinking moving abroad will solve all your problems. It will not. I promise you it will not. And I know it feels like it's going to be a brand new, fresh start, clean slate, and in a lot of ways it is. But like I said before, everywhere you go, there you are. So if you're struggling things like financial instability or relationship issues or just a general lack of direction in life, those things don't just magically poof and disappear just because you're on new soil. You really need to make sure that you're doing the inner work or the research or whatever it is you need to do to overcome those mental barriers and the things that will be brought with you emotionally when you move abroad, because it's not going to leave, I promise you. And honestly, in a lot of ways, moving abroad can bring up a lot of stuff that you've been trying to suppress. I've even met other American expats here in Bangkok. It's very clear in talking to them that they're running away from themselves, which honestly, you can't do that. You cannot run away from yourself. It's not going to happen. So I think before you take that leap, you need to ask yourself, am I running to something or am I running away from something? All right, and one last thing to consider, and that's handling relationship challenges, specifically romantic relationships. Moving abroad can definitely put a strain on relationships, especially if your partner or the person you're dating isn't making that move with you. Ask me how I know. If you're in a relationship and your partner or the person you're dating isn't coming along for the ride, you might find yourself dealing with long distance issues, and it can be tough having to adjust to a life abroad without having that immediate support. Obviously, moving to a new country can feel overwhelming, and to not have your significant other by your side might make things even more difficult. Now, I'm not saying that long distance relationships can't work. You definitely can. There are so many ways to stay connected. You can have a Netflix watch party, you can send each other gifts, play online games together. There's apps designed for long distance relationships. You can do your research on that. But if being able to see your partner when you want to and physically be together is a big deal for you, you're going to need to make time and set money aside for those flights. Those flights can add up pretty quickly. So you really have to sit down and ask yourself if you're ready to do that for real. And if you're not, then you might have to face the tough decision of either staying where you are with them or calling it quits entirely. Moving abroad can definitely force you to reevaluate your priorities and how much you're willing to sacrifice for a fresh start. Now, if you made it this far into the video, I actually have a bonus one for you. And I think it's really crucial when thinking about moving abroad. And that's you can't be attached to your possession. You're going to have to be willing to let go of things that are familiar to you. Your furniture, your clothes, maybe even your car, or even personal things that you've held on to for years, like your vinyl collection. If you struggle with the idea of parting with your things, then moving abroad is going to be a very big challenge for you. And parting ways with your things doesn't even necessarily have to mean selling them. It could be putting them away in storage. It can have that same psychological effect on you if you're really attached to your things. But honestly, the reality is a lot of your possessions just aren't going to fit your new lifestyle. And that's especially true if you're living to a place with limited space or a totally different lifestyle. Letting go of these items is more than just physical. It's about mentally closing that chapter of your life back home. And if you can't do that, it might be harder to fully embrace the life that you're trying to build abroad. So yeah, if any of these hit home for you, it may be worth taking a step back and thinking about whether or not this is the right move for you right now. And if you find that you're not ready to move abroad, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't take the leap later. It just means not right now. Now, if after watching this, you're still thinking about moving abroad, you can check out my other videos for tips on life overseas and what you need to know before you take that leap. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!